Good afternoon, everybody. We are here with EM, the magazine for entrepreneurs and motivators, where we interview industry leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, authors. I'm happy to have an author with us today. We have Donna Beasley with us. She's going to tell us all about what she has going on in the world of kids' books with her company, KaZoom Kids Books. Thank you for being with us, Donna. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Good. So I have a few questions when I was reading about what you did and I read your bio, and you've done a lot of things, and it seems like this is like a career path change. So how did you go from being in corporate and doing all those things in the corporate to creating this space? And tell us a little bit about this space and how you came to make this transition.
Well, I actually left. I was in the advertising industry for well over 25 years. And I actually had to leave the industry. I had a stress attack, and my doctor said, you either leave now or leave leave on a stretcher. So I made the choice to leave now. So at that time, though, I always have been a big fan of publishing and magazines and books. I'm an avid reader, and I actually started a digital magazine in the romance travel industry. But my niece turned 5 years old, and I went to the bookstore to buy her some multicultural books. And I was stunned. I went to 4 bookstores, and not one of them had a book with a Black or brown child in it. I was really upset by this. I mean, I was stunned that in this day and age that would even occur. And I literally left the industry to go into children's books. I felt that I could make a difference in creating greater diversity in children's books, and that I could help other authors and illustrators get into the field. And so, I made that decision. I figured that not everybody really needs, another romance magazine, but people really do need something to share with their children. And so I made this, never look back.
All right. So how long ago has that been?
Well, we started out really around 2014. We actually, did some crowdfunding things to raise some capital, but we officially started in August of 2016.
Okay, so you almost 5 years in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So with your books, I understand that there's audio involved as well. Now, is it audio in English only, or do you have other languages as well?
So right now it's in English only. We hope to be adding Spanish in the future. But our books have sight, sound, motion, and animation. And so that's kind of how we started the company. We wanted to find what could separate us from every other children's book publisher. What could we do that, hadn't been done before? And because I was doing a digital magazine that had sight, sound, and motion, it would be a big deal to actually do that in children's books. But it turned out to be a really big deal. Unsurprisingly, and this is what happens sometimes with entrepreneurship, we ran into really a big wall. And that wall was that we could not, my concept was that it would be a app of multicultural children's books that a family or a teacher could use in her classroom. But what I learned was that in the United States, there actually wasn't a way to do that. The only people that actually had that technology was Apple. And of course, you can't license Apple technology. And that just never occurred to me because I was an Apple customer and my magazine was on Apple. So, I just knew it could be done, right? But that really turned out to be a big obstacle for us. I actually ended up having to get the technology that I needed overseas in Europe. The other big obstacle that we ran into was funding. And, Renata, I'm sure you've heard the story about how Black entrepreneurs, we have a hard time raising capital. And you can imagine that, raising capital to do something for, Black and brown children was even harder. So that was an impediment, and so that's how I ended up getting in doing crowdfunding. I did pitch competitions. I, raised capital from friends and family, the usual startup stuff that helps you get going. And so that's really how we got started, overcoming those obstacles.
Wow, that's a lot. And that's an education all within itself, because from taking that idea to conception and then going into that brick wall and finding a way to go around it. And we don't even want to talk about the statistics of startups, Black startups getting funded, and then throw in a Black woman startup getting funded. It's the decimal is so far removed. It's less than 1% of Black startup, Black women businesses, and that's really kind of a strange paradox, because Black women businesses are the fastest growing segment in new businesses. So that's definitely something we need to work on, finding those doors and those tables to sit at. And if not, really building our own for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And so consequently, then COVID hit. Okay. And so we really had to change our business model. We couldn't just be an app because schools were closed. I mean, it was not, the business model was no longer working. So we had to switch and go into the retail market, which we did last year. And so, we spent the MOCA last year getting our products ready to go up on Amazon and everywhere ebooks are sold. We got a new distributor. And so 2021 is a big year for us because it's the first year that we will be retail, where people can go into, anywhere ebooks are sold or into Amazon and purchase our books and both our ebooks. And we also are going to be doing print on demand on Amazon as well. So our books will be available in print as well, which is insignificant because mothers have asked us. We were a digital company, and so we only did ebooks or iBooks, books with sight, sound, motion, and animation. But now we can really satisfy requests from mothers that we also do our books as printed books.
Well, that's awesome. That is really a remarkable achievement that you're in this field, because it is something that's needed. I read a statistic. Well, actually, I was talking to someone that was in the children's book field, and you know what opened my eyes that I didn't even know, that a lot of the books that are there, and there's not that many there, that they're written by people that are not people of color. So you have other people in the industry telling our stories and selling stories to our children. So I think it's very important that we tell our own stories and that we write our own books. And that was something that was really surprising for me to find out.
Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely. Another startling statistic is that, because people always say, well, I see a lot of Black books on Amazon that are really popular. Well, did you know that a lot of those books that are popular that were even written by Black people are 25 years old or more? So it's a need for a new generation of authors and illustrators. And part of what we try to do at my company is actually help authors and illustrators get into the field by publishing their first book or giving an illustrator his first job in illustrating a children's book. So, because it's not just you got to have people who write children's books. When you're dealing in picture books and storybooks, you got to have people, you have to have artists and illustrators that do these books. And, we got to make a way for them to get into the industry as well.
So how do you find your pool of illustrators?
Trial and error. So recommendations. We do illustrators, both U.S. and abroad. We pick an illustrator by the kind of book we want to do. So if we're doing, something that's a lighter fare or fun, you want an illustrator who can capture that. Uh, I have two books coming out that I wrote, and both of them are historical, meaning that one is on Black cowboys and one is on blacks in aviation. Back in when aviation was just getting started in the 1930s. And so I needed illustrators who could capture that and who could give that flair and that flavor of Black cowboys, which is something that I've always wanted to do. I am a big fan of, growing up, I was a big fan of cowboy movies, and there were never any Black people in those movies. So one of the things that I really wanted to do in my writing is tell stories about us as a people. And so this particular focuses on a Black family of ranchers, cowboys, getting their cattle to market. It's called Blaze Barton's First Cattle Drive. And the other one is called My Mama is Flying That Plane. And a lot of people don't know that William Powell, a Black man from Chicago, moved to California to start an aviation company. And he had his own airplane manufacturing company. And he taught people how to fly. And he encouraged Black people to get into that industry of aviation when it was just getting started. And nobody knows about him. I didn't even know about him. And when I found out about what he had done and what, I just knew that I would have to do a book about Black aviation. And so the story, while it is not true, it is based on a woman who wanted to become a pilot, like Bessie Coleman, and her drive to get to California to get into this pilot school and ultimately become a pilot. But I love telling those stories about accomplishments of Black people that you might not have read about.
And that's absolutely, that is so important. I watched the Mars landing, the little clip yesterday, and I watched the people in NASA. And maybe I shouldn't think this way, but one thing stood out to me. I watched row after row of people that didn't look like me, cheering on. And I just thought about that, how a lot of times our genius is put through the side. And they were talking about even it's been 30 years now since men have been going to the space station, and that there had only been 14 Black men who had been at the station and only one who had actually lived at the space station. And I know there's Black genius everywhere that you go. And to get those stories out, to really let people know this is nothing that's new to us. We have been aviators, we have been cowboys, anything that you name, that we have been excellent in doing that. And it's really so important. I think about when I grew up, I didn't see me on TV. I didn't see me in books. It's very interesting how you said that most of the books that are popular are 25 years old or more. And so we do need to continue to tell our stories and continue to let people know that we are excellent, because truly what we see in front of us, even on a daily basis, is not highlighting our excellence. It's a lot of times highlighting the worst of us and not the best of us. So it's very important to continue to tell these stories and continue to make people aware, for sure.
Yep, definitely. We always say, the motto of our company really is that we believe that every child should see themselves, their family, and their community in the pages of a book. No child should have to grow up never seeing, Black people or Hispanic people or, Asian people where they don't, where they're never in books. It's just not fair. And if you consider that, when I started, only about 5%, this was like 2015, only about 5% of children's books actually featured a child of color. Yet the country was growing more and more. It's almost now 50% multicultural. So, it cannot continue that we do not have diversity in children's books, because those are the children that make up our country. Those are the children that make up our families, and so, you know, we have to tell the stories of, from history, but we also have to tell stories that are important to children of today. And in order to do that, we need writers. We need people to write those books. You mentioned that, like, where do we find illustrators? We have just as big a challenge finding people who write these books. So, I actually started teaching a course on how to write multicultural children's books, because a lot of people tell me they want to write them, they don't know how. And so, and then as a publisher of these kinds of books, I need writers who do know how. So it's important to, you know, um, reach out to people who want to write children's books and give them the opportunity to do so as well, and to tell the stories from their own cultures. My story is going to be different than your story. Your story is going to be different than my friend who's from Nigeria. The story, you need to be able to tell the story. I have a book, one of our children's books was written by someone telling the story from the point of view of being a Puerto Rican grandmother and passing down her cooking skills to her child. So, we all have a story inside of us that we can tell. And, the challenge is getting people willing to do it and to write these stories.
And that's absolutely, when you think of it from a multicultural background, my grandson is Asian and Black. So he definitely has Asian roots that, as a Black grandmother, I can only tell him the Black experience, but he is very, multicultural. His great grandmother is 100% South Asian. So definitely he is a multicultural child, and I would really like for him to know both sides of his heritage. So definitely, I understand that. Wow, this time has got away from us, and I've enjoyed hearing your viewpoint and all the amazing things that you're doing. So, what is coming? Where is this going? What is that big plan for the future?
Well, actually, I really would like to expand our reach, beyond doing children's books to, kind of following your footsteps, Renata, in terms of creating a streaming opportunity to take some of these things to television. One of the things that when I first started, my competitors, they can license products from like Disney or Sesame Street or Nickelodeon. In the Black community and the Hispanic community, we don't really have that option, because the shows haven't been done for us. So when I look at the big picture, the big vision, I want to create characters that can be loved and be loved throughout the world. I mean, when you really look at it, that's where we're going. We like to do that and to get some of our stories produced and get into the whole streaming TV movement.
That's awesome. Well, we can talk another time on making that happen, because we can definitely have some inroads in there to make that happen. That would be absolutely amazing to see those stories come from us, and not the major theatrical. I mean, it's only been like a couple outside of Disney, that are even in that space. So it's definitely a space that's wide open. And we wish you continued success. We're going to keep an eye out for KaZoom kids books and all the things that you're doing. And I'm just thankful to have you on this platform to be able to share the amazing work that you're doing. So thank you for being with us this afternoon.
And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for supporting Black authors and Black publishing. We love you for that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So this is Renata Brown, and we have been on EM, where we love to tell your stories of amazing entrepreneurs and motivators, and usually those two things go hand in hand. We have been talking today with Donna Beasley of KaZoom Kids Books. Make sure that you check out her magazine cover and her story on Inspire Magazine. Thank you. Have an awesome day.